Welcome to EntreProgarmmers Podcast, the podcast for developreneurs, the podcast where you get to be a fly on the wall listening to real conversations of three developers trying to tackle the challenges they face as entrepreneurs.
All right, we're live.
All right, so fair warning, I may suddenly disappear because apparently Apple called the obsolete your laptop API on my laptop yesterday, and my laptop has crashed, just gone down dead 5 times in the last 24 hours.
Man.
3 of which were within the last 2 hours.
Okay.
Nice.
Jeez.
It's
like Apple saying, "Screw you, Derick! Spend $4,000 that you don't have."
Well,
hey, Derick, check it out. I got a hat.
Oh God!
check out the
hate again.
Look! It's signed. How's that? That's pretty cool, huh?
That's even worse. So your room sounds awesome now, John.
Yeah, I'm
Those
pretty happy
sound
with
panels.
it. You know, the oh gosh, I didn't want to install these sound panels myself. Like I bought them, I don't know, for like $700 or so, I think. And so I had the designer that like did the design for my house. She's got like a handyman guy, and I was like, okay, well, let me just get this handyman guy to do it because he's already, he's been hanging the other stuff, my paintings and my pictures on the wall and stuff.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, well, how much could he charge? $75 an hour. To hang.
And it took him like 10 hours.
Well, it took him like 2.5 hours, but I was like, I know there's some Mexican guy on the corner, like at Home Depot, that would do this for like $10 an hour, and do just, but whatever.
Yeah, that seems a little steep.
Yeah, that's a little crazy. But I figured it's just not worth it going down to Home Depot and picking up some random person to save like $100 at this point, because it's only going to take him 2 hours. But in the future, I need to figure out a good handyman guy that I can,
Yeah, that's really tough. The problem is mainly for me has always been just reliability.
Yeah.
I've basically everyone I've ever worked with just fell off the face of the earth at some point.
The solution to that problem, Josh, is to do like the billionaire that I used to work for, and just full-time hire the handyman that you really like, so he can't work for anyone else.
There you go.
Seriously, the guy Drayton McLean I used to work for Drayton McLean. He used to own the Houston Astros, and he had a handyman that would go around and do all of the work that Drayton wanted done in his office buildings, at his house, at his friends' houses.
Yeah.
I mean, wherever Drayton said, hey, go take care of these needs, this construction, this whatever, that's all the guy did. He worked for Drayton McLean and did whatever Drayton told him to do.
So, John, we'll have to renegotiate our agreement off air so that I can get this working. So.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to need a little bump in my monthly.
But yeah, I'm pretty happy having the things up. It does sound better. And I mean, here I've got this mic, but it really makes a difference, I think, with the lapel mic when I'm back ways and stuff. So.
It even makes a huge difference with that mic, because previously you've had a lot of echo in your sound, and I mean not like so bad that we couldn't hear you or anything, but there is a significant difference between previous and now with those panels up.
Yeah. I decided to get a light kit too, because I've got like this light, and then I've got the track lights are not quite. They're just not, because they're all overhead. So I think I'm gonna get. So I've got a soft box that's coming that I'll put in front.
Yeah, I've got 2 soft boxes turned on that I always use when I'm on video now. Makes a huge difference in the lighting quality.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. Finally, I have an office that's actually like.
Yeah, it's like a real office.
Yeah.
It's like you work there or something.
I know. So we did.
So I
our,
am.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead. Dead silence and then
I
both
beat you. We did our sale of our launch. Well, it's kind of funny. I don't think we even mentioned that we were doing a launch, but we created this this course on. Actually, so I created this short course on 10 ways to make money from your blog, just kind of as an upsell for the blogging workbook. Right, that was the kind of the idea there, and then Josh and I were like, well, should we like offer this to the rest of the list? So we're like, oh, we should just send an email out that says, you know, because some people would probably want to buy this, not just from the upsell. And then we're like, well, maybe we should send a few emails.
Well, maybe we should do a full launch sequence.
So we did a mini launch. We did like 4 emails that ended up being 5. But we did pretty good. We sold like was it $17,000, including the upsells. Like, because there was an upsell funnel, about 15,000 of the main product at $49 a pop, and then that's funny. So some people are gonna be like, "Hey, I bought it for $99."
Yeah, we had all kinds of trouble. So we had Josh made a couple of mistakes with the emails. So true to form, I mean, basically every product launch has to go horribly awry. So
yeah,
there was like this cascading series of mistakes with the links, some of which were my fault, some of which I would blame on Google and Google Tag Manager. But yeah, it was basically like what happened was I screwed up the link in the second email, and it was breaking the discount code.
Oops.
That we were using. Yeah, and then we kept seeing people buying it $99 instead of $49. We're like, what is going on here? So we finally figured it out, and then I ended up doing, we just hard coded the discount right into the button instead of having, I have all this tricky JavaScript that like checks for the discount code and then gives them the appropriate discount, but we just ended up hard coding it and bypassing all that, and eventually it took us about 2 days. but we got it all working in time for the last round of emails to go out. So
yeah, we're gonna need some checklists. I think there's this really good book I read a while ago called Checklist Manifesto, and it's essentially about this guy that started doing checklists in hospitals for IV insertions, right? Because there's actually a staph infection. I think it's staph infection that like a high percentage of people die from this like very basic procedure. And there's like a simple steps, right? This is like real simple, you know, like to like put a cloth over, drape the person, clean the area first, right? And it's like, and so doctors were actually really insulted by this idea, this guy putting this checklist in place, right? But he was trying to solve this problem because he's like, we should not be having like a 20% death rate or whatever it was. I might be exaggerating. It was something ridiculous. So it was like
that's a slight exaggeration.
This is like a standard procedure. Like people were dying. So he put in just like this very basic checklist, right? Essentially, and it reduced the number of infections to 0. Right, and these are like experienced doctors and nurses, and they're all insulted by like, how can you have this very basic checklist, right? And so so in the book he really like, you know, nails the point home that like, you know, like the reason why the airlines are so safe right now is because they have checklists after checklist after checklist. Every single thing they do is checklist. Every situation that they ever encounter, checklists, right? And so he really hits home the point of the value of checklists. And so it's been something I've been thinking about. But after this, and I screwed up this week too. I like in last week I had made some updates to Simple Programmer site and doing some things that broke minification, like with jQuery. And when I was logged in and checking the page, it didn't use the minification because it didn't use the caching engine. So I didn't see the problems. But yeah, like for a couple of days, we couldn't get email signups and stuff. So that's another spot where like a checklist would be. And plus, I've also recorded YouTube videos without my mic on, which because I've got this battery mic. So I'm starting to think there's a couple of tools that I've seen that offer, checklists, but I think that's one thing that I want to start implementing is coming up with these checklists, like basically post-mortem, like, okay, what would have prevented this? Like what kind of checklist, what kind of steps could we put into place? Because you can't always execute perfectly, but if you have a checklist and you can check things, right, then you can make sure that you don't, because we probably cost ourselves. I mean, if mistakes like this can cost you a couple $1,000s a month, right? Like I probably cost us a bunch of money from emails that we didn't get signups, that people would have bought stuff. And then with the sale, like probably we would have had more people buying at the lower price. So yeah, it's it's definitely worth looking into.
Yeah, that can be definitely be an important thing, even for things that aren't critical, like money making and stuff. Even like this is something that I've talked about with my therapist a few times, is having a checklist for morning routines. Like it gets really crazy stressful around my house in the mornings, trying to get the kids ready and out the door, and my wife getting ready and everything. And there are days when the kids are just having a really hard time, especially my son. He'll be freaking out about whatever it is, and that throws us all into this crazy tailspin. And one of the solutions to help make that easier to deal with is having a checklist, so that if I'm having a really hard time with my son, I can tell my wife, hey, I need to step away from him. Can you please take care of him? And right now that's really difficult for us because she has to continuously tell me what needs to be done for the kids' lunches and stuff, because I don't do that on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And so with a checklist in place, it's like, okay, she just tells me where she left off on that list.
Yeah.
And then I just pick it up from there and get it done.
You need to start at 4A.
Yeah.
But no, it does. It's a good idea. It does make sense. It clarifies. It provides, some structure, which can prevent you from making mistakes, from repeating things over and over again. And yeah, so it's definitely useful to have, especially like think about too, like when you pack, right? I need to have one for packing too, because it's like every time you pack, it's like, all right, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Like, you're going through you're like, okay, I have underwear. Yep. And then you're counting it up, and it's like, but if you just have a checklist, then you can just go through, okay, I know I've got everything that I need. Yeah. And then you modify it later.
I have a packing list that I use. So I print out every time I go on a trip. I have a packing list that I print out, and then I usually have to modify it a little bit, but I'll do it all right there on the hard copy.
Yeah,
I need to do that. As much as I've been traveling lately, I do. The other thing
it makes it a lot easier.
It's interesting though is that it's funny because you're talking about this, and it sounds a lot like the advice that I got from you guys a couple months ago when I was talking to you about hiring somebody, and you said, "Well, have your procedure down in a checklist that they can follow." So did it just not occur to you to have a checklist for yourself too?
Well, I've got some I just it's been one of those things where I've sort of, since I read that book, I've been wanting to implement checklists, and I was using this tool called, what's it called? FireSub or something like that. And I might go back to it, and I started putting some checklists in place because we've got process documents in the wiki for things, but I wanted to really have like a checklist that you could check off. One thing, I just got an advertisement email from a company called Process Street. I don't know if you guys have seen that. But
yeah, I actually feel like we were looking at that. I've seen them before. I want to say that maybe we were looking at them at Trackabout before I left.
Okay. But what they do is I think that they integrate like workflow and task management with checklists, like repeatable checklists. Because I found checklist apps, and one of the problems was that it's like a one-time thing, or you print it out. Yeah. And what I want is something that's like a reoccurring, that you fill out the checklist when you're about to do a task. So I think Process Street might be. I've got it set on my schedule to look into that. But
there's actually a really simple app for that called Notepad.
You got to have repeatable
Copy the file.
checklists, Derek. Like every time someone publishes a blog post, they need to be able to go and check off the rat.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to
seriously,
see
I get the point of visibility and distributed team members and everything, but for anybody that just needs to start, just needs way. I mean, we seriously, we often let tools and technology get in the way of actually being productive. Oh, I need a checklist, so let me go find these crazy configuration apps and build all these wicked tools, and I'll spend 3 weeks building this app that I never use when I should have just started with Notepad and printed it out and scratched through it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, or laminate it and
something.
Yeah,
lamination.
Yeah, that
dry erase markers. That's super simple, cheap ways to get started. And then when you realize that you need more, then get more.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's true.
So in the world of irony and things coming full circle, I guess. So me and Eric Norman started up this other mastermind group for screencasters, and we have a couple of other people in it with us now. And this morning, one of the other members sends out this test email. He's got an iOS app that he's launching for his screencast site, and so he's working up the launch email for it. And the launch email's got a ton of great info. It's well formatted, well written. He knows what he's doing in terms of making it easy to see everything in this email. But I asked him the question, how often do you email your mailing list? Well, basically never. Okay, well, you might want to send out an email just to warm your list up, give them kind of a little tease.
Right, exactly.
How are you going to do your full launch? Well, I'm just going to send this one email. Well, is that really? I mean, people are just going to hit unsubscribe and not really care about what was in the email. And plus, with all of this information in there, there's so many questions that I have and so many things that I need to think about. Are you sure you want to? Maybe you shouldn't be just sending this one email, but you should have, your warm-up email and your features email and the it's coming tomorrow email and then your launch email. And so I go through this whole thing of this launch sequence.
The student has become the master.
And exactly. And his response, hold on, let me pull this up. His response, I swear, is exactly something that I said 1,000 times 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
He's copying and pasting now from the EntreProgarmmers private Google group.
Yes, exactly. That's awesome. He's listening to episodes 1 through 20 of EntreProgarmmers and just repeating me. So here's his response to all of this. My wife just brought up a good point. Quote, "You hate receiving emails so much that it makes you never want to send other people mail." End quote. Bingo.
Yep.
It's funny.
This is exactly what I sounded like.
Yeah.
2.5 years ago.
Now you're Mr. I'm going to email you 8 times a day.
Yeah. Seriously, I haven't been that consistent with it for a while now, but I'm this morning I started writing my own launch sequence for my how to learn Docker launch that I'm going to do. I've got all the screencasts for that guide done, so I'm gonna do it as a launch for people that are not subscribers. And I've got 12 emails in there, and they're it's like, wow, this is a great launch sequence. I'm glad I finally forced myself to sit down and put this together because I've been needing to do this forever. And then he gets in there with this one email, and it's like, So I think I have him convinced to do 3 emails. He's going to do one that's like warming up his list because he hasn't talked to him for so long. He'll do a second email, which is the full feature list, which was a really good email overall, but he's not going to include the link in that email. And then he's going to do a third, which is it's live, go get it. Just click the link and go.
So on this topic, one thing I noticed that when we were doing this little mini launch that was super interesting. So when we sent out 4 emails over 3 days, which actually no, we sent out 5 because we resent the second email because I screwed up the link.
Which still had this.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't. No, the link was fine. That was the Google Tag Manager issue.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, that one was not my fault.
It was still screwed up.
Yeah. It was very frustrating. Well, and then there was and then on top of all that, there were layers of caching, right? So we had the browser caching. So some people we'd make the changes, and then some people were still paying the $99 because they'd hit the page already and they had the cached version of it, and there was nothing I could do about it. So we sent out the first email, and I was watching in Zaxa, our shopping cart software. We can see the conversion rate for the funnel. So I sent out the first email, and after about day one, I just was checking, and I saw, conversion rate is 4%, right? So, of everyone who clicked the email, 4% of them bought. It's okay, it's not bad. And then we sent out the next two emails, and I just have been watching the conversion rate throughout this launch. And on day two, after the second and third emails went out, the conversion rate climbed to 6%, which means people were clicking multiple times and then deciding to buy. And then by the end of the launch, by this morning, we just cracked 11% conversion. So that means,
holy cow.
Yeah, well, so that's not of all the people that we sent it to. That's not the whole list. It's of the people that clicked, 11% of them ended up buying. Right. And if we had just sent the one email, it was only, we were leaving almost 2/3 of our sales on the table.
Yeah, and I guarantee if we sent more emails, we would have sold more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does.
That's why I'm doing this whole launch sequence with 12 emails now. I've got 5 emails that I'm going to start on Monday, which are the informational, educational. These are all the problems that Docker has solved for me, and then the week after that is going to be the sale, and just hitting them every day and looking back at my own history and trends for these sales and launch sequences that I've done, excluding the last couple of months where things went tanky crap. Invariably, I get that big spike on day one, little bits here and there, and then big spike at the very end. And if you don't do at least a couple of emails, then you really are going to be leaving money on the table. People that didn't see it, forgot about it, whatever. They're just So just to get our revenue, this was such a weird, because we didn't do any lead in to this. It was just completely we jumped out from behind a bush and we were like, ha, product, and so it really caught people off guard. But so our first day we made $2,100, second day $5,300, third day $8,100. Wow.
So
nice.
And the funny thing about that kind of both of these things combined is one, what you're saying, Derick, some of this stuff, you kind of forget how much stuff right? We all have MBAs essentially in marketing. We've got advanced degree level knowledge, and it seems basic to us, but to other people, we forget when we are just initiates into this that we all this kind of entrepreneurial and marketing and business stuff we didn't know, and so we kind of, you do the same thing with programming too. You take it for granted, but you don't realize that other people they don't know any of this stuff, and it's a ton of stuff. And that was kind of the interesting thing too about that I discovered when I created this product is, I literally created this product in 5 hours, right? I just recorded the video, but I had it all in here. It was years in the making, right? It's I know 10 ways to make money from your blog. I know every way to make money from your blog after building up Simple Programmer to, the revenue numbers we're at now. It's this is it. And so it's you can distill that information, and it's kind of funny because it's one of those things too where it's it's that low hanging fruit. It's I could spend months trying to create the new course that we're going to sell for $300 or $500,000, but in 5 hours, just taking the information that I've got in my head, I can produce something that's easily worth $49, probably, that's easily worth $99, and just put that out there, and then bam, we've got a new product. And so so that's one thing to think about too. It's just like for all of us, like for products, whether it be programming related or business related, is like you don't realize how much knowledge you have that other people would pay for, that you think is basic stuff, but because you're not thinking about it now. But there's there's products in all of our heads that that literally each one of us could create in a day that would generate a large amount of revenue. But
yeah, it's largely just a question of figuring out what those chunks of knowledge are and which ones your current audience would pay for, and then just putting it down on paper or video or whatever it is, and launching it.
And I think we did like a 0.5% conversion rate on the list, right? Is what?
Yeah, right around. Yeah, because it was about 250 transactions.
And I think that's about what we guessed.
Yeah, we were guessing. Yeah, we were guessing around that. Yeah, John and I had a friendly little bet on how much we thought we would end up making, and John won. I was thinking we were going to be around 8 to 10K, and then I was basing that off of the first day results, which was totally whacked because we didn't do any lead up at all. We didn't really get that much excitement on the first day, so so I way undershot on that one.
One thing we missed opportunity-wise, which would have upped the conversion rate, is we didn't, because I got a lot of emails saying, would this apply to, I don't have a developer blog, or not quite a development blog. I'm not sure I'd be able to use your course. So one thing we might address in the future is like, because it doesn't matter. Like it has nothing to do with software development, really, like how to make money from a blog. But I think a lot of people thought it did.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the structure of your course? Is it all video, or do you have like a workbook or something that goes with it, or what?
Yeah, this one's just all video. It's just straight video lessons, and then I thought we included a behind the scenes video of actually looking at simple programmer financials, like in QuickBooks, to show where the money's coming from. So. And then Josh came up with a brilliant guarantee for this, which is essentially like, it's got a year money back guarantee, like everything, but it also has a we'll give you your money back plus $100 guarantee if you follow the steps in this, and you provide proof that you've actually followed the steps for 3 months and you haven't been able to generate at least $100 from your blog.
Yeah.
Which is
so basically the hook is we guarantee you'll make $100 from your blog in the next 90 days, period. Whether that money comes from us or from Amazon or whatever, product sales or whatever.
And it's a real solid guarantee because, if you go through those steps and you actually apply them, I don't care who you are, you're going to find a way to make some money from your blog, right? It's like,
Yep. Well, and it was fun, actually. One of the sales emails that I did was, I need to go back and see where most of the sales came from, but one of the third email was actually about our $100 challenge that we did, our 24-hour challenge, and it worked perfectly because John was trying to make $100, right?
Yep.
So I basically said, all right, now it's time for you to step up. I'm issuing the same challenge to you. You go make $100, and it worked. It was nice pitch for it. So
nice.
That's interesting because, I've been working on this Get a Coder Job book, and I could probably sit down and do the videos in 5 hours and have something to sell.
Yeah.
Later.
Do a beta. Yeah, I would encourage you to do a beta version of it, where you just do it really fast. And
yeah. Well, the other thing is then I could say, look, this is the beta version, and you can get it for half price or something. And just see where people's interest is.
Yeah, that's one thing I was thinking about, was doing some kind of strategy where we had all these like little baby products where they're just real short, like, and cheap price, and then we saw which ones were selling and which ones were popular, and then making full products out of them that were higher price. The only problem with that is the launch issue. Like, I think you could do that and put them secret on the sly launch them, throw them on your product page, or or put them into funnels, right? But the only reason, like, the thing that I was holding back was, like, I don't want to. I'd rather like launch a $500 product than a $49 product, because you only get to launch to the full list one time, and have that launch effect. And so, I think if you start too small, but you can test them out at the smaller prices by maybe even segmenting the list, or doing something like just putting an email sequence where you have an opt-in and something, and so you're getting some kind of funnel, and test that. But it's not a bad idea. I mean, it's funny too, like the whole thing, like, I mean, a book is great because a book gets you a certain amount of credibility, and there's a certain distribution in whatnot of having a book.
Yeah.
But it's
for those who are only getting the audio, he moved over so we could see soft skills.
Yeah.
I was just talking to someone last night, and I was discussing, and I was like, it's kind of crazy because you put hundreds of hours of work into creating a book, right? And then you sell it for like $10 to $20, okay? And you could create a video course in like half a day, maybe a few weeks, a month, something like that. Much less time, much less effort, and you can sell that for $100, $500, $1,000. And so, you kind of want to
take the same content that you would have put into a book, and if you put it into a video course, you'll sell it for 10 times the price.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, like, my thing about video is, what I realized a while back is that video is great because you're basically offloading the processing cost of consuming the information from the producer to the consumer.
Right. Yeah.
Like, because there's video sucks to learn from because you have to sit there and watch it. And it takes so much time. Like, so all that time that you would have spent writing it, like, instead of one person spending the time writing it, the information and condensing it, you just spew it out as a video, and then everybody else has to like invest all that time watching it. Instead of if you're reading it, you can skim it and you can consume it pretty quickly. So yeah, I personally hate video courses as something to learn from, but whatever.
Yeah.
So it's interesting you say that, because I don't have quite that disdain for it.
Well,
not just because I produce videos, but even when it comes to learning marketing materials, marketing tools, learning all these things that are not my development work, I like videos for a different reason. I don't like videos because they show me step A to step B on how to solve the problem. I typically look for blog posts and other text-based formats to give me the exact, detail of this one thing. But the videos, for me, gives me the higher level overview and the awareness of what the solution is, so that I can apply my awareness of that solution through another means. So even though I am producing code and showing people code in the Watch Me Code videos, my goal is not for people to sit there and type the code as they're watching me. I want them to get the point, to get the gist, to get the raw awareness and understanding of what the solution is for that specific situation, so that they at least know how to find the answer the next time they need it. Maybe they do come back to the video and they fast forward and find that one chunk of code, or they find a blog post or whatever it is. So in my experience, video is not the teacher. It's the thing that makes me aware of the solution so that I can apply the solution when I need to.
Where I find video to be actually very valuable is learning the peripheral stuff, that especially with coding. So the type of video you're doing is actually pretty different than what I'm thinking of. Like, but like Chuck, I remember when I was learning a little bit about Ruby on Rails. And I think, Chuck, I went through at least half of your series on building that Twitter clone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so, like, just watching, there's so much value to watching someone actually work.
Yeah.
Versus, like, I guess what I'm thinking is more like the Thrive themes tutorials that they send out, where they're like, now I'm going to show you how to, configure this little widget. And it's like,
Right.
No, don't make me watch a 5-minute video. I want, like, text that I can skim and see, the 3 things that I need to do. And
right.
So but as far as, like, I think the real values comes in when we're actually watching someone work, like, live in some kind of live environment. You can see, like, how they're thinking about the problems and that, like watching someone code, for example. Anyway.
So, another thing that we got going this week, I've been spending so much time on the ultimate podcast list. So now, if you type any kind of search keyword basically related to programming podcasts, developer podcasts into Google, number 1, pretty much. If there's any that I'm missing, let me know, and I'll try and, but if you guys take a look at that now, it's I think it's pretty slick. I think it's the best possible developer resource for podcasts out there at this point, because it has pretty much all the podcasts, and they're nice and sorted and by category and everything. So I spent a lot of time. I actually had a plugin that was pulling from Google Drive and or from Google Docs to generate this page, like a WordPress plugin, but it was slowing everything down. It was using, like, data tables and a bunch of jQuery stuff to do it. So I actually wrote some code the other day.
No.
Yeah. Lewis, who often helps with the design of Simple Programmer, he gave me a bunch of, like, CSS, to make it all look nice, and then he gave me some code to run in LinkPad to, like, convert the Google Doc into, like, or I have to save it from CSVs into the HTML. But I modified it and made it just take an entire Excel file, and so it was fun to write code. But now the HTML is just generated from that program, and then I drop it into the page whenever we update the podcast list. And this is doing pretty good. We're getting a lot of leads from it. We're getting like 200 or so page views a day on this particular page now. So, nice. And then check this out. Here's what. So I've got 2 things I'm going to do with this. This is going to be. Hold on.
Huge. It's going to be huge. I have the best links. They're the best. They're huge.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Tell you what I'm going to do.
We're going to have links. They're going to be the best links, and it's huge. You're not going to believe the quality of links that we're going to have.
And Mexico's going to pay for them.
So 2 things. One, I hired someone on Upwork. I hired 2 people on Upwork. I hired one to do the same job. One of them sucked. But the $3.50 an hour guy did the best job. I just had him go through the entire podcast list and get all the email addresses from podcast hosts. So, Chuck, you're going to get like 7 emails from me soon. So what I'm going to do is I take that email. I've got 150 podcasts in there, right? I'm going to mail merge 150. I'm going to send out an email to all 150 podcast hosts and Chuck 7 times. And and I'm going to basically say, look, I've got this resource. It's the ultimate list of developer podcasts. You're not going to find anything better than this. Like this, I spent hours, building this thing and making it the best and keeping it up to date. Like this is #1 best resource. You're featured in it. You're in it, right? So your podcast is in it. I would appreciate it. Your listeners will be interested in this, I'm sure, right? Your audience. I would appreciate if you shared it, and if it's not too much to ask, if you could put it as a link on your podcast website as a resource for everyone. I would appreciate that as well. And so I'm going to send that out, and that is going to get. I think that's going to generate ridiculous amounts of traffic just from that one email, right? Because think about it, who's going to refuse that? It's a good person to ask is Chuck. If I'm giving you that offer,
Chuck will say no 3 times, and then he's going to have to say yes.
Stop sending me emails.
That's right.
Bam. But I don't know. You think that's
spam. Okay, that one.
As a podcast host, you think that's can you imagine? Do you think people would not take me up on that, or
not if you email them 7 times?
There we go. See,
I'm just kidding. Well, the thing is I think it was Code School. They put together a list of the top JavaScript podcasts, and both Adventures in Angular and JavaScript Jabber made the list. And so I put it in my rotation, and it comes out every week or so in Twitter, because I'm using Edgar. It comes out every week or so on Twitter. Hey, look, we were some of the top podcasts. And and so I think a lot of people will share it at least one time. And other people will do that kind of thing and go, hey, look, we're in the ultimate list of programming podcasts.
And then I got one more smackdown to get the most. I'm getting super juice out of this thing, right? So I came up with this idea when I was running. I had to stop running and just I was halfway up a mountain. I was like, to email myself. So I'm going to create got to put on my Trump hat for this one. I'm gonna create the Software Developer Podcast Awards. Okay, so check this out, right?
Help? Please.
Yeah. So the idea is first to send out an email again to the podcast host, maybe after this, another month, once we get this set up, and ask for nominations and ask them to send to their audience to nominate them their podcast. That's going to generate a ton of traffic just by itself, right? Mm-hmm. Once we've got the nominations, okay, then I'm going to create a bunch of categories. The more categories you have, the more people that you can have nominated. Therefore, the more people that you can send another email to and say, you've been nominated for this category, okay? And then those people will spread that out to their audience, and then we'll have voting, and then we'll be able to have another page that says for 2016, these were the best developer podcasts for all these categories, and we should be able to get massive traffic on that as well. Mm-hmm. So I think that is going to be one of the best things that we do for traffic for Simple Programmer.
I like it.
They can design a little award badge graphic that people can put on their podcast.
Yep. And I'm thinking of giving $1,000 prize to the overall best podcast, developer podcast. I feel like that will be something that will significantly, a lot of developer podcasts don't really make any money at all, right? Not everyone's got their Bentley like Chuck.
Hey, I'm still working on the Bentley. I have a tricycle right now.
Not everyone has their own handyman on staff like Chuck's fix. I just broke my desk. Fix it again.
my handyman works for golf.
Here, let me see your ruler. Take him home so he can see his grandkids. Hey, Raul, let me see your ruler. Snap. Fix that. Fix that, Raul.
Okay.
Wow. Right now, I'm imagining that scene at the beginning of The Princess Bride where Buttercup tells Wesley to get the picture down from up on the ceiling when she's standing next to it, just because she wants to be close to him.
But yeah, I think that to be in charge. Anyway, I think for most of those podcasts, $1,000 prize would be something significant that they would
see if you can work out a deal with like Libsyn or a few other places, maybe as like the runner up will get, discount this much off for X, months or something.
Oh yeah, free hosting for like for life. I bet Libsyn would go for that. Actually, if you think about it, right? Because they would get super.
This is our secret plan to bring back Signal Leaf. If we can get a couple podcasts to get free bandwidth for life, and then we can make them go supernova thanks to John's incredible list. Then Libsyn will just go belly up.
But yeah, there's a lot of reasons why I think that this will work. Like I said, one, just this huge traffic in the link backs. The other thing, just that it'll spread out, but also that it'll get people on the Simple Programmer podcast. We'll be collecting email addresses. I think that this will. Yeah.
Not only that, but if you play the Libsyn angle correctly, you can get set up as an affiliate for Libsyn. So anybody that is on Libsyn or moves over to Libsyn because they get whatever discount for being nominated or for winning an award, they would end up generating revenue for you.
That's true. You know what? Gosh, I kind of missed that boat because you know how many developer podcasts have started because of one of my courses?
You need to fix that.
Yeah, I should have been doing...
I literally, when I shut down Signal Leaf, I literally made more money profit-wise from Libsyn affiliate than I did from running Signal Leaf.
Do they have recurring though for their affiliate?
It works. It's like 50% of the monthly fee for the first 3 months of their podcast or something like that.
Oh, okay. I'd want maybe we can negotiate something like a small, like 10%.
You probably could with as many people as you've already sent there, and as you will be sending there. You can probably work out a better deal. I took whatever their standard deal was because I'm like, yeah, you might get 4 or 5 people out of it.
But yeah, I'm pretty excited. I think it's gonna be huge.
Yeah,
huge.
So we have like 10 minutes to talk about the Mastermind groups thing.
Yes. So, checklist. See, this is where we need checklist steps. I think I had. So next steps. I figure we'll just kind of inch along with this as as long as we're making progress on this. So I have divided the podcast, like the people into groups.
Yeah.
So we got, I think, 12 people. So I think it'll be 11.
3 groups of 4.
No,
there's 12 now. We got another person applied for it yesterday, it was either yesterday or the day before. So there's 3 groups of 4 again.
We should probably shut this down. Close it. Maybe if you want to put up a page when people go to that link, if it just says, sorry, we're not accepting any applicants anymore right now, we'll reopen. We'll let you know when we reopen.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And have them
I'll do that.
Join the email list, the EntreProgrammers email list, which we didn't. I guess we should have emailed that out, like the thing. But when we reopen it, we can email it out.
Yeah.
But let's see, what do we have now? We've got, so we've got them divided into groups. I'm pretty, wow, my list is not very good. All right, so the next thing we need to do is to create like the standard operating procedures and welcome email. Essentially, like tell people, hey, you've been selected, you're part of this group, here's your peoples, and introduce yourselves, and here's what we want you to do for next steps, and just basically tell them like an email of exactly how this whole thing will work.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, I think what we should do is, and I talked to Eric, and Eric will edit. I think he said that he would do them all for like, including ours for $450. So that should take care of the cost and give us a little bit of buffer. There won't be show notes for the ones that besides ours, which I think that makes sense. So, so I think what we want to do then is probably do the same. Is basically tell these groups, okay, here's what you do. Like we suggest that you set up a Google group to communicate with. If you want to do some other stuff, that's fine. But this is what we found works pretty nice because it's not intrusive, and and then we could say basically select a day of the week that you're going to all meet together to do the podcast. So you can do 1 hour or 2 hour, whatever you want to do format wise, and then basically use Google Hangouts to record this, and then have the YouTube channel, give Eric access to your YouTube channel, and then tell him when you're recorded, and then he'll just pick it up and publish it. Oh, we also need to tell him to create an iTunes, create a podcast. So maybe we can point them to Derick. I think you've got a tutorial on how to create a podcast.
I don't know if that exists anymore.
On Signal Leaf, or okay, if not, I can find one. I know Pat Flynn has one too, but essentially, all they really have to do is go into iTunes, or sign up with like Libsyn. Oh wait a minute, hold on. I think we're just putting this on our Libsyn. I didn't think this through. How are we doing that?
Well, let's discuss it on the list. I don't know if we really want to.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll have to hash out all those.
I think we need to before we get those details solved. I think we need to get people talking this week in their groups. So either we get an EntreProgrammers Mastermind group Slack set up and get everyone in there, and then just divide people into their own private channels for their group, or we email everybody and say, hey, here's a Google group that you can use to do this, and invite. I think Slack is probably the easiest way to start, honestly.
Okay.
If we can get an onto, somebody did for EntreProgrammers listeners, but for these mastermind groups, I think John said last week that we should have a separate one, and I agree with that. So getting a Slack set up and getting all 12 people plus us invited into that Slack, just so that people can start talking and start having some place to move forward. Because I don't want this to be strung out for another month and a half, people waiting and wondering, what's going on, because we don't have a lot of time and effort to put into this. If we get people involved and we have these discussions in Slack with everybody, then the people that want to be a part of this can take ownership of some of these actions, and we can get things done a little faster.
Okay, that's a good idea. Do you want to create the Slack group and then
Sure, I can do that.
Do the invites? And what I'll start doing is I'll start working on the standard operating procedures, because I think we still want to send out an introductory email, like letting people know, what the kind of basic outline and plan is, and maybe we can post that in Slack too. And then I like what you said, like we could, some of these tasks some people can take up, like when we can hash out some of these things. I just want to make sure we get it all kind of figured out. But I mean, once we get this running, like right now there's some overhead. Once we get this running, it'll be smooth, right? Because they're essentially the only maintenance we'll have to do. There won't be any, really, not much at all. We'll just have people that are just, they'll know what to do, right? And Eric will be able to pick up and edit, and we won't have to do much. So yeah, but we got to get it going. So
yeah,
I don't think it'll be too bad. And we might look at a launch date for this. It might actually be best to just launch at the very beginning of the year for the groups to actually start recording the podcasts. I mean, if you think, I don't know, maybe we can get it done before then, but with Christmas and everything and holidays, it might be hard for groups to meet. So it might be best to just count on this, really launching at the beginning of the year. Because we'll also
we need to make everybody aware of that. I mean, I'm sure most of those people, if not all of them, are going to be listening to this and they'll hear it. But getting people into Slack, and that's a super simple thing I can get done quickly. I've set up a ton of Slacks recently, so we can get that done and just get people some place to get started, and then we can figure out the details with holidays and everything, and really launch early next year.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. Cool. This will be exciting. Anything else?
That's about all I had for the week. I just thought it was pretty funny to have that conversation with that other guy this morning about the whole marketing emails thing. It's like, let's see. Hold on, let me go back to my old complaints and find the things that I said, because it's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Copy and paste.
Yes.
Well, I got my conferences pages up. So, yeah, I've been doing a lot of WordPress development lately, which is not exactly where I ever thought I'd go. But
That's exactly how I feel.
But at the same time, I mean, it's getting there. The problem I'm running into lately is that I got the conferences pages up and everything's kind of clicking along there, and I'm trying to find somebody who can help me schedule those and, you know, get people speakers and people signing up for them. And so then I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to adapt what I did for the conferences and conference talks over to webinars, and I am totally, every time I try and work on it, I hit a brick wall. Because the webinars list is the same as the conferences list, right? I just changed it so that it lists webinar titles, but the page itself is not pretty as far as like signing up for the webinars. So I did get an email from Josh, I think it was this morning. Doesn't matter how pretty it is, or at least it, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter as much how pretty it is, just have good copy on it. So I'm working on that. But.
Yeah. Yep. Honestly, like the plain white, with the opt-in fields converts pretty well. So that's kind of like the place to start.
But I'm really just, sometimes I just have a hard time getting motivated, because I've been pushing really hard to get stuff done so that I can just move ahead the way I want. And I think I'm burning myself out.
I hear you. I felt exactly that way about doing this learning Docker launch. I've literally been putting this off for 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm finally this morning, I'm like, I really need to do this. I should have done this weeks ago. And now we're going to get screwed up with timing because of holidays and voting. And I have to launch this, just to start my launch sequence on Monday, or it's not going to happen until next year because of holidays, which sucks. So I sat down and started doing it this morning, and once I started doing it, it just started flowing. It's just like, okay, I'm doing it, and we have 2 emails done, and I have my outline, and I have my timing, and I'm going to have this thing done this afternoon.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been really hacking the motivation thing lately, and I'll tell you, like, just quick. Actually, maybe this should be my thoughts.
There you go.
Is basically like what I've discovered in the last few weeks. I've gotten my motivation back, and I've gotten into work mode, and you know, I was struggling with it before. And so the key things I've discovered from this is, 1, consistent wake and start time. Like having that makes a huge difference. Every time I say huge now, I feel like I'm huge. So that the time compression of like when it's of uninterrupted blocks of time, like when it's in work mode, like even if I'm just working from 7 to 1, but I'm working from 7 to 1, like that makes a huge difference. I use huge a lot.
Size matters.
So that compression, right? Instead of spreading it out, because when you spread it out, you lose motivation and you feel like crap. Momentum, like you said, Derick, once you get working on it, like you don't feel like doing it, but you just start putting your fingers to it, and you just like pretty soon within 10 minutes, you're going to get into it. And most of the time, like the one thing that seems to really help with motivation is hard work. Like, and it's the one thing you want to avoid when you don't feel motivated. But once you actually start, you know, digging digging those ditches, like you start to feel good, and it's like so that's what I've discovered. And then the other thing is like time boxing it. So knowing that I've got you know, a time box and a reward. So I'll reduce it down. So it's like if I have to get 10 Pomodoro done today, that and then after that I can play some video games or do something else. That gives me something, like then it encourages me to to compress the time and not waste the time and not procrastinate, and I feel good about it, and then I can feel like I'm done, like it's complete, like I did enough work because I did what I planned. and then the last element is the planning. So every time that I get sidetracked, like just last night, I got screwed up because of the launch emails and a bunch of issues that came up. So I went in and I looked at my Kanban board and I was like, replanning. Every time that I know that I have tasks that are not going to get done for that day, or that like something jumbled my plan, I immediately stop what I'm doing, replan it, make it an achievable day for the rest of the day or goal, and recompensate that. And that really helps a lot, because I found that the thing that was really demotivating me a lot of times is I'm like, oh, I got all this stuff to do, I can't, I gotta hurry, gotta get it done. And it's like I created arbitrary like things that I need to do on my to-do list, and they really are arbitrary. Instead, what I need to do is like, okay, pause, reprioritize. What are the things that actually need to get done, and how much time do I have, and what is realistic? Bam, let's get that. Okay, now I'm back on track, and I can feel good about getting this stuff done because it's an achievable goal. But all those things like combined together seem to really have helped me a lot. I'm getting a ton of stuff done. I'm feeling motivated. I'm not feeling like I'm feeling like I'm now cruising at altitude, and I can stay there. Whereas before I was like, whoom, boom, whoom, boom, right? And I get all this shit done, and then I'd crash down and feel burnt out. Now, I mean, we'll see how this maintains, but so far this seems to be, you know, I've had a lot of lessons learned, I guess, and I've kind of compacted them, and this seems to be optimal for me. So
to summarize your thought for the week, whoom, boom, whoom, boom.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's huge.
It's huge. It's going to be great. So my thought for the week. See, how do I summarize this? Sometimes it's really fucking painful to fix things.
Yeah.
Like you want to be a better software developer, you got to learn better software development techniques. That's painful. You got to study, you got to practice, you got to do things that are difficult in order to move forward. You want to fix problems in your life, which is where this is stemming from me. Sometimes you got to talk about those painful problem areas, and you have to really get down to what the cause of those problems are before you can move forward and find actual solutions instead of just sweeping it under the rug. You know, but those painful conversations, the pain of learning, the pain of getting past it is almost invariably worth it in the end, because you become a better person, a better developer, a better whatever at the end of it. So suck it up, live through the pain, feel the pain while it's there, and move on.
Yep, I totally agree.
Yeah.
You repress a lot of stuff, and you don't deal with the issues. If you don't deal with them, they don't go away.
No, they just get bigger, they get worse. And they manifest themselves with me yelling at my kids in the morning, which is not a healthy thing for anyone.
I think my thought is going to be. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chuck. Were you gonna add to the current discussion?
No, I was going to add my thoughts on.
Oh, okay. All right. So my thought for the week is that focus means saying no to things you really want to do. I have literally, I think I've had half a dozen people this week try to give me money, and I've said no to everyone.
That's hard.
Yeah, it is really hard. Like the consulting stuff. Like lately, I've been getting a lot of emails from people, and it's just like, it's so tempting, because it would be like, it's only like a couple of hours here and there, but it chops up my week, you know. And it's never a couple of hours, because when I do any kind of consulting, I'm always like going to spend a lot of prep time before I jump on the phone with people, and so yeah, I've just been saying no. And it's really hard, but yeah, it's definitely, you know, makes it say, you know, those little yeses add up very quickly, and then, you know, 2 weeks from now I'd be freaking out. So
Yeah, there's that weird thing like when you first get started, you should say yes to everything, and then when you get established, you need to say no to everything.
Yeah. Well, when you don't have something good and big to work on, right? You have to find it.
Right.
And I've found it in Simple Programmer, and you know it's very clear.
You say yes to everything so that you can figure out what you're best at and what you love doing, and then you start saying no to everything else.
Yep.
Yeah. You open a lot of doors, and then at first, and then you got to close all the doors but one eventually. Like
close them and burn them down.
Yep.
And doesn't that open them again?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Couldn't help it. Sorry.
These are magic doors to the magic realms of money. Yes, and when you burn the door down, it closes the portal.
Yes.
Haven't you seen Monsters Inc? Come on, jeez.
Reminds me of Tommy Boy. Shut up, Richard. All right, my turn.
Is that a niner in there?
So I'm going to kind of tie it all together here because I think we all talked about goals and about getting where we need to go and saying no to stuff. And, kind of just triggered something in my head when John was talking about motivation. And I've been listening a lot to Zig Ziglar. One of my goals for the end of is to listen to everything on Audible by Zig Ziglar by the end of the year.
Nice.
And I am well on my way, but I have to listen for an hour a day at 2.5 speed. In order
5x
to get it
audio,
done.
baby.
But anyway, one of the things that he talks about is goals and goal setting. And I've also been implementing the 12-week year, which is this book that I read a few weeks ago. And one of the things that they have you do too is set goals for your 12 weeks. It occurred to me, I'm just like, man, why am I having so much trouble being motivated? And just when John said the word, motivation or motivated, it made me realize that I'm focusing so much on the tactics and I am forgetting the fact that I have these goals that I am invested in because I'm not reviewing them every day. And so, if you want to be able to put the things first that you need to and say no to the other stuff, if you want to be able to get the stuff done that you need to because you want to make forward progress, you have to keep those goals at the forefront so that you know why you're doing it. And that makes it much easier to stay motivated. And so after this call, I'm actually going to write down all of my goals on a piece of paper and put it in my pocket, and I'm going to carry it around with me for the rest of the 12 weeks, and I think that's really going to move me ahead in the sense that then I can focus on this is what I'm trying to get done, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I can then accomplish my goals. And I think that'll help a lot with the motivation issues I've been having the last few days. And just, I sit down and I start working on the webinar stuff and I'm like, I just don't want to do this. But if I have that goal in mind where it's okay, but I have these revenue goals and I have these launch goals that I need to meet, then it's like, okay, well, I can sit down and I can crank on this for a half hour to get my goal done.
Yep. It's funny, actually. I was having dinner with someone who's a simple programmer in Pacific Beach. I ran into him when I was running, and he invited me out to dinner. And he asked me, he said, "What's the one thing, John, that you would say that you need to be successful, like to reach the kind of levels that you've been able to achieve and things like that?" And I had to think about it for a second, but then it came very clear to me, and it was learn how to grind it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing is like if you've got that goal and you know that then you can grind it out, right? It's like when I was leveling up in World of Warcraft, I'm like, oh, I want to reach level 49, so I'm gonna go ahead and kill these frogs over and over and over again.
1 XP, 1 XP, 1 XP, 1 XP, 1 XP,
or whatever it is, But yeah, grinding it out.
Yep.
Cool. All right. I guess we are. No holidays yet.
No, not yet.
Okay. So I think we'll be.
I'm going to be in Nashville next Friday.
You know what? I may be
Nashville's
traveling.
a good town.
I'm going to Tony Robbins next weekend. So I'm trying to see if I'm actually traveling next weekend.
Might just be Josh and me, unless Josh is going to be out too.
I will be here, so perhaps a Watch Me Code deep dive.
Oh,
yes.
I don't have my flight on my calendar. Who knows? I
The
might
thing that
not
I
be
love
here.
about flights being put on my calendar is that I get the calendar invite from the airline, and it says it takes off at 8 o'clock in the morning Mountain Time and lands at 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern Time or whatever, and it puts it in from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock Mountain Time because it's not smart enough to convert that landing time because it's in a different time zone. It drives me crazy.
The best is when it takes off at 8 a.m. and lands at 7:30 a.m.
Yeah. I've flown a few of those.
Wait, this is I think my calendar crashed.
When I came back from China and crossed the international date line, and it was that long of a flight, I got there. I got to where I basically went back a day in time.
Yeah.
Like I actually arrived way before I left. It was nuts. It was just like bizarro land.
I heard a story once about a person who was turning 21 and had these grand plans for going out and getting drunk, and because of some flights that they had on some international trip, they literally missed their entire birthday. They were in the air. They left. They left on the day before their 20th birthday, and because of time zone changes and international date lines, they landed the day after their birthday.
Wow. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't think I'm going to be. My flight is actually leaving on the 9th, but then I'm going to be in Tony Robbins land. So that's yeah. All right.
In 2 weeks, I will be calling in from New York, but I will be here. So
live from New York.
Live from New York, it's Chuck Woods.
All right, guys. Talk to you next time.
See ya.
Wanna start a business, but you just know how to code. Listen to John, Josh, and Derick as we figure it out. We are the EntreProgrammers, and we'll teach you straight up to be